Word.
Alright. Give me just a quick minute.
Oh man, we have a lot of videos to do today. We have like 4 or 5 more than we usually do.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a longer one, but I think, let me look here. I think we kept all the clips under 5 minutes except for 2.
Nice.
So we'll be okay.
Is this boss right here on screen?
Not what I wanted. There we go, fix that.
Yeah.
I found this great clip from the BBC that covers the happenings of election night. They definitely got somebody with some meme magic to make that shit. It's funny as hell.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Word.
Did you poop your pants?
No, something like, well, no, not at all. Probably not even
Something
close.
like that.
Yeah, they're like not all of my pants.
Not all the pants, just some.
I didn't poop all of my pants. Like just some pants.
All the pants. And how's it sound for me? You guys can hear me, understand me well? Sounds loud enough?
Yeah, you sound good. Let me see what our stream sounds like on the tube of you. Oh man, I can hear myself twice. It's gonna be so good.
Times the bread box.
What up, Stuart?
Place the bread.
Oh man, twice. What's our delay set for, by the way?
Let me check.
I think it's about 20 to 30 seconds, something like that.
I think so. I'm not sure if I have anywhere, or I've got a complete delay or something going on, but...
If you look down to the lower right-hand side of OBS, it should be down there. I think, if I remember correctly, I think that's where it was. Maybe I'm retarded.
And on mine.
I'm probably just retarded. It could just be the latency. I was just kind of curious. It's all good. Oh man, big week. Oh, I got bummed that we missed last week, my dude. Work sucked too.
I kind of feel like it's working out a little bit better this week, though. I mean, to make this week our 22.
We have a lot of news.
Oh yeah, a lot more movies.
Like a lot.
Big show.
I had to trim out some stuff from the news coverage that you know I can imagine people are going to be irritated with us for, but we had to cover the stuff that you know kind of felt was more important.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be a fun week. Fun show. You ready to take us in?
Ready if you guys are, I would say.
All right, let's do this thing.
All right.
Did you ask me if I was ready to sin?
Are you ready to sin?
Are you ready to take a sin?
Are you ready to take us in?
Yes, I am.
Engage. All quiet on the set. Fuck
Quiet.
you, Red Baron.
Howdy again there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Need to Know podcast, brought to you by no one. We're not sponsored by anything. I don't know why I was about to say that. Brought to you, coming to you live. Coming to you live on this lovely Sunday, November the 18th. Oh, how are we doing today, you guys?
Yo, you think we should still call it a podcast?
I don't know, is it a podcast or a show?
I have no idea. I think we're just making up names and going with it.
Yep, kind of feels like it, honestly.
Oh, man, I missed this last week. That's okay, we got a lot of stuff to catch up on.
Indeed we do,
All
indeed
right.
we do. So where are we jumping in from?
Well, just like we normally do, we're going to start off in North Korea. There's been some weird news this week. If you remember, we're kind of in the middle of those North Korean negotiations. We're trying to, broker a peace deal between the North and the South, maybe some reunification, who fucking knows. But the one thing that the North is always consistent on is its rhetoric. And its rhetoric is pretty much always, we're going to rattle the sword until you give us what we want.
Sword rattle,
So-
saber rattling.
I don't know if you guys heard, but North Korea has a new ultra-modern, super tactical weapon that it's tested, but it doesn't say what it is. So everyone is running around saying
Ultra-modern.
everything from it's a new rifle to it's a new type of bomb that we just don't know about that they tested without us knowing about it.
Well then, let's find out what it is.
But
I
nobody
think.
knows.
North Korea didn't show its latest weapon, just its unsmiling leader at the test site. His first visit there since this long-range missile launched last year. It described the new weapon as tactical and ultra-modern. US officials say they don't see the test as provocative, although it comes after these comments from President Trump.
The missiles have stopped. The rockets have stopped.
It is a message. Kim Jong-un frustrated he's had no relief from US sanctions. Not since the Singapore summit, where he pledged to denuclearize. And North Korea is still building missiles at up to 20 hidden bases. A second Trump-Kim summit, though, is on. Dismantling nuclear weapons, its go. And late today, the State Department said North Korea has released a US citizen it detained last month, allegedly for entering the country illegally. North Korea has held other Americans for years. This may be a goodwill gesture.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for...
Oh,
Yeah.
go away,
Ugh.
NBC News fans.
Ugh.
Go away. So basically, hey, we got a new pop gun. That's really cool. Can we get back to the discussion table now?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We still just want to play with the potato cannon for a little while.
For all we know, it
seriously.
could be that.
So I ran across this really interesting news piece by Vice News, and Vice is always doing something strange, but I kind of felt like we're always reporting like the political side of North Korea, and there's other stories going on surrounding North Korea that are kind of interesting outside the politics discussion, especially when it comes to the U.S. This next story hopefully will not only give our listeners some insight into why the actual summit was held in Singapore and what it's like trying to do business inside North Korea.
Find out.
I want a hot coffee and give me a mashed potato.
In some ways, Patrick So is a diplomat. He owns the Asian franchising rights to a fast food joint in Singapore called Waffletown USA. And in 2009, he was tapped to help two businessmen do something sort of crazy: open a fast food restaurant in Pyongyang.
North Korea government, they send a delegation here to try the food. They try McDonald's, they try KFC, but finally they pick up Waffle Town.
They came by here.
Yeah, Waffle Town, we have a very good fried chicken. And also, the waffle is something different. So for North Korea, the ex-leader, and the father, we want to create something for their citizen, special for family purpose.
So North Korea's
So
fast
that's why
food
they
of
bring
choice
Waffle Town there.
is waffles and chicken.
Singapore maintains
Why not?
diplomatic relations with North Korea, and up until November of last year, had business dealings with the famously closed-off country. So has
And
the kind
that
of
could be why
first-person
they had the
insight
summit
into
there.
the DPRK that most official diplomats, and Donald Trump, don't have.
Good point.
He's made 30 visits to the country, and he's seen physical changes to the city of Pyongyang since Kim Jong-un rose to power.
Watch
He's
for
pretty
him
sure the
saying
meeting
no
in
comment.
Singapore isn't just for show.
Why do you think he's been encouraging the economy that way? Like
Good.
building the airport, building the high rises.
No, he needs to improve. He cannot let the country stay forever, right? And he's young, is it? Right? And moreover, North Korea, you have 24 million of population. He needs to create the prospect, the future for the people.
Do you think that's why he's here?
Yeah.
So has business interests to protect, and
No,
he doesn't
that
want to be
nigga
critical
likes
of the
chicken
Kim
and waffles,
regime,
motherfucker.
at least publicly.
Is there something about your experiences in North Korea that you think would help President Trump if you were able to talk to him about it?
I don't want to comment on this.
On that? Okay.
Too sensitive.
But his
I don't
view
wanna
of it
tell the
is
president
one
how
that
to
few
do his job. He's
Americans
doing a
have.
good job.
And it's a
Leave him
reminder
alone.
that no one should think of North Korea
Poor guy.
simply as a black hole of crazy.
What impresses you about the North Koreans?
I think North Korea, the people are very friendly, very disciplined, and most of the people are well educated.
And education is another area where Singaporeans are working with North Korea. Jeffrey C. has partnered with the North to host business classes through a group called Choson Exchange.
Chef C.
He's visited the country around 40 times.
The first trip we went in there, we didn't know what to expect, and the North Koreans also didn't really know what to expect. And I remember that first workshop was very tense and very weird.
C says the North Koreans insisted on a rigid schedule, and that the people in the class, primarily elites handpicked by the government, were hesitant to ask questions.
What do you think the fear was?
Yeah. So North Korea is a very low trust society, right? People trust their family. They trust people that they have worked with for very long times. But if you say institutional trust, it doesn't exist. And I think people didn't want to seem too enthusiastic about a topic and then, this coming back to haunt them someday. If you compare that first experience to workshops today, it's a world of a different, right? People are very openly asking questions.
That kind of insight, is there something in there that you think would be beneficial for President Trump to know walking into his meeting on Tuesday?
I think one thing that he has gotten right, and I feel reflects our experience on the ground in North Korea, is that for the North Koreans, you need to establish empathy and trust. You need to feel like I have a personal relationship with you and I trust you, because we get into fights with our North Korean partners all the time over all sorts of things. But underlying that, the fact that we have been able to work with them consistently for 11 years is the fact that they know that when we put out those ideas, even if they disagree with it, we have their best interest in mind. And I think what Trump has to do in this meeting is to have that relationship, but at the highest level.
Yep. Oh. That looked like the North Korean version of the Beast.
I think it was.
Oh man, wonderful. Well, so that's pretty much what we got going on in North Korea. It's been pretty quiet. I don't expect it's going to start warming back up until next year. We'll see what happens there. But we haven't checked in on Israel in a while, and their fighting is actually heating up.
Ooh.
Say what?
Again?
No, just laughing. Shit's getting fiery there.
It's getting pretty hot and heavy. A lot of people in Israel and analysts that are, looking at the situation are saying they haven't had this much conflict and fighting since the Gaza war. So we may be looking at Gaza war number 2 here.
Yep.
So let's watch this CBS This Morning clip.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yep.
But we're going to turn to the Middle East now. Gaza and Israel are facing their worst violence in years amid escalating attacks by Israeli and Hamas forces. Hundreds of rockets were launched overnight as both sides exchanged fire. The deadly violence follows an apparently botched Israeli military mission in Gaza over the weekend. Charlie D'Agata is in the Israeli city of Ashkelon near the Gaza border. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning. This is just some of the damage left behind after waves of attacks here in Ashkelon. Last night, a Hamas or militant rocket slammed into this house and blew a hole in the wall. Miraculously, everybody here survived. Ashkelon is very close to Gaza, which is within range of militant rockets. It's also where a rocket hit an apartment and killed a man inside. Now, here's the scene last night. The Israeli military says some 400 rockets were fired into Israel. The famed Iron Dome defense system was able to intercept more than 100. Now, this morning, Palestinians in Gaza awoke to widespread destruction from Israeli airstrikes and tank fire. Now, the Israeli military says the targets included a Hamas TV and radio station and the group's alleged headquarters. Now, both sides have been brought back to the brink of war after that alleged botched commando mission that left 7 Hamas militants and 1 Israeli lieutenant colonel dead. Now, this morning, Hamas threatened to extend its reach to include further cities in what's already become the worst fighting this country has seen since the 2014 Gaza war. Nora?
All right, Charlie Daggett
So,
in Israel. Thank you.
Maybe they'll do a follow-up. You never know. It could happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We know what we'll be reporting about.
Let's see here. Oh no! Don't do that! Don't do that! I hate my YouTube app some days, my guys. All right, so we're getting out of Israel. That's pretty much all that's going on there. They're fighting with Gaza. It's. I don't know what to tell you guys. It's status quo. Like they literally. It's one side has an argument, then the other side has an argument, then they start shooting at each other, and the other side starts. It's just it's a bad situation over there. I'm not saying that the Israelis are doing anything wrong, but man, there's a lot of fire going on both sides. So
way too much.
We'll leave it at that. The Jamal Khashoggi thing kind of came to a minor head while we were away, and we're currently waiting with bated breath to see what Trump says. Here Monday or Tuesday. I don't know if you remember, but they were still waiting to see who might have been responsible for it. A lot of people are pointing fingers at Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, because a lot of them were his like bodyguards and shit like that. But then they can't decide. They can't decide how the guy was killed. If he was chopped up, if he was chemically dissolved, if he was carried out in suitcases, or if he was carried out in a van. Like, nobody,
all sorts of different things.
He's just a ghost. Like the whole situation's really messed up. Honestly, I think if anything good comes out of it, they might be able to force the end of the Yemen war, but who knows?
Well, so the CIA, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I mean, talk a little bit about that, because I mean that just happened. We're about to watch a video about that.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as I know, the CIA is saying that bin Salman's the guy who ordered the killing, and so it's hard to, as far as I know, trust the CIA with anything.
I completely agree with you, and I think President Trump's response to that is kind of interesting. We should let's take a look at it.
The White House appears to want more time for this diplomatic crisis. The president claims his administration will have a report within the next 2 days that would explain what he calls the overall impact of the Khashoggi murder. But in the same breath, he says the CIA has not finished its work, even though there are news reports that say the agency has an assessment that points to the Crown Prince. Before he returned to the White House in the wee hours this morning, the president promised new answers on the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi by Tuesday.
We're going to come up with a report as to what we think the overall impact was and who caused it and who did it.
While aboard Air Force One Saturday, the president was briefed by phone.
I spoke with our CIA director.
But Mr. Trump denied that the CIA has already determined that the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, ordered the killing. An intelligence assessment first reported by the Washington Post and confirmed by NBC News.
They haven't assessed anything yet. It's too early. That was a very premature report, but that's possible.
Giving himself breathing room as he tries to manage a strategic relationship with the Saudi royal family. While avoiding criticism of the Crown Prince, the president commented on new sanctions targeting Saudis linked to the killing.
We're being very tough on a lot of people.
The president also set a different deadline for himself. His written answers to questions from the special counsel will be turned in soon.
We do that next week. They're all done.
And with House Democrats coming to power, the president curiously offered to help Nancy Pelosi secure the gavel with GOP votes if needed.
Can you believe it? I like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's tough and she's smart. But she deserves to be speaker.
Perhaps to protect himself.
Now they're playing games with her, just like they'll be playing with me. It's called presidential harassment.
It's fucking hilarious.
And Willie, if you thought the campaign season was over, the president has announced that a week from tomorrow he will hold 2 campaign rallies. That's on the eve of a runoff election in Mississippi, and he'll be there to work on behalf of the Republican Senate candidate.
You
thought it was over, but not quite yet.
The endless campaign season. Kelly O'Donnell at the White House. Kelly, thank you.
All right, kill that.
Yeah.
So Trump isn't buying this shit. Trump ain't buying this shit for a minute. I mean, he's been the left is trying to fucking paint this as a Donald Trump scandal, but he so far is keeping the name Teflon Don. So.
Oh yeah. Still though, man, if it turns out this
glad he
guy's
has
alive.
Well, he has the same sentiment as me, like, well, I don't think they fucking got it right, so fuck them, kind of.
Yeah, right. But that is so. I mean, it's not really on topic, right, for the current topic we're talking about. But man, how about that Nancy Pelosi clip? Oh my God, I forgot that was in this video.
Bro, that's one of my favorite things in the universe right now is that he's like, yay, Nancy Pelosi. She's smart, capable, like, she deserves it.
It's like, put her in front of the camera.
You guys
Let
think
her
she's
call
gonna
me
get it?
George Bush a few more times. Oh yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Dude, I had a few
Yeah.
Trump people, like, telling me the other day, they were all butthurt. They're like, why the fuck is he sticking up for Nancy Pelosi? You see that? He's fucking cocked. He wants fucking Nancy Pelosi. I'm like, do you not understand how stupid she makes those people look?
Yeah.
Perfect
The only
reason to
way
get
it
her
could
in.
be better is if it was Maxine Waters. God, that'd be so
literally
amazing.
got done calling her low IQ in like last, I don't know, 20 rallies or whatever the.
Yeah, right. So we're still in the Middle East. We're still talking about Saudi Arabia, and we're gonna shift gears with Saudi Arabia and talk about their other major problem, which we mentioned earlier was Yemen. And we've talked before about the famine crisis that's growing in Yemen, and we've kind of laid off of Yemen for a while because the news has been all the same, and we don't want to. You really wind up with audience fatigue if you report on something too much. People start to not give a shit about it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna go back to the Yemen crisis because it's kind of reaching a bit of a crescendo. The famine is very real. So the first person we're gonna hear from is I forget what his official title is. It's something like he's the UN Minister on Food. Like he's supposed to be, making sure that, countries are keeping their citizens, fed and everything like that. Some kind of human rights council.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I want us to play this clip from RT of him making he just makes a quick statement to the UN, and then let's watch the Al Jazeera clip afterwards that actually goes into what the current situation is in Yemen and how bad it actually is. Be aware.
What I've seen this week in Yemen.
Hold on just a second. For the people in the audience that are a little bit like sensitive, there are a lot of emaciated children coming up. So
Jumped into that one just a little bit too prematurely.
Here we go. Good. You're all good.
What I've seen this week in Yemen is the stuff of nightmares, of horror, of deprivation, of misery. This country of 28, 29 million people has been suffering for years, but now, as some would say, it is on the brink of catastrophe. But it is not on the brink of catastrophe. It is a catastrophe. And all of us, each and every one of us, have our own selves to blame. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? The conditions that everyday Yemenis endure are presently only because of war. They would not exist at all if stubborn men would just sit down and talk instead of fight.
Kind of poignant, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
So this guy, I actually kind of respect him a little bit because he actually traveled to Yemen, and that's what the next clip is about.
Try not to jump the gun here. So.
No, go for it. Hit it. Jump on it.
When he briefed the UN Security Council, Special Envoy Martin Griffiths was talking up the prospects of Yemeni peace talks due to take place soon in Sweden.
This is a crucial moment for Yemen. I've received firm assurances from the leadership of the Yemeni parties, the governor of Yemen, of course, first, and then Ansarallah, that they are committed to attending these consultations. I believe they're genuine, and I expect them to continue in that way and to appear for those consultations, and indeed so do the Yemeni people, who are desperate for a political solution to a war in which they are the main victims.
Also briefing the Security Council, the head of the World Food Programme, who says the country is only months away from full-scale famine. David Beasley had just 48 hours earlier been in the main Yemeni port of Hodeidah. While in Yemen, he visited a hospital in Sana'a that only has the capacity for 20 child patients a day. They receive about 50 cases. Those not admitted are sent home to die.
Goodness.
One little child.
Yep.
I remember his little feet was sticking out the blanket, and it was kind of cute. And I went and tickled the little feet, thinking I'd get a little smile, and just like tickling a ghost. And nothing there.
Next week, the UK will circulate a draft resolution to the other members of the Security Council calling for a cessation of hostilities at Hodeidah and at other key locations used for transporting aid. How will Saudi Arabia react? Diplomats tell me they don't think the Saudis welcome the idea of a new resolution. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.
Pretty fucked up, eh?
Oh, yeah. Extremely.
Like, there's really not much else you can say about that other than it's really fucked up. And they gotta come to they gotta bring this thing to an end. They gotta end this war.
Absolutely. This has been going on for way too long. Way too much.
Oh. I mean, we've probably seen a good 20 hours worth of war footage at this point. Like, just doing the show research and looking at what's going on down there. It's not pretty.
Getting to the point where it's like, wait a minute, why are they fighting again?
Yep. All right, so switching gears from the Middle East, getting out of there and heading back over to our European side. Just something I wanted to mention briefly was that, during the armistice parade and celebration, Trump had the chance to meet with Putin, and the media jumped all over it. Because, let me tell you, my friends, the bromance continues.
Ooh, shit, let's see where this goes.
A rain-soaked morning here with a ceremony to commemorate the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the end of the Great War. Scores of world leaders marched and gathered at the Arc de Triomphe today. President Trump was supposed to be the last official to arrive, but Russia's Vladimir Putin was late, and the two exchanged a greeting of a handshake, and Putin offered a thumbs up. President Trump and the First Lady each wore what's known here as the Bleuette de France on their lapels. It's an important symbol this weekend. President Macron of France delivered a sharp message about the lessons of the Great War, saying nationalism is a betrayal to patriotism. That is, of course, a rebuke to President Trump, who has identified himself as a nationalist. Also, there was a breach of security here as a topless protester broke through the line and rushed the president's limousine. She was tackled by French police. Today, President Trump is expected to visit a cemetery where the American war dead are buried after he missed one Saturday because of rain, fog, and low visibility. Marine One was grounded, and the White House opted not to take a more than 100-mile round-trip motorcade, a decision that has been criticized, including from veterans groups. Willie?
Kelly O'Donnell, another rainy day in Paris. Kelly, thank you.
Let's discuss that thing for a second, because that was a big deal in the media. I did a little bit of reading about that situation. The president literally came out and addressed it. It was foggy. The Marine, like his security detail, determined that it was unsafe for them to fly in Marine One.
Mm-hmm.
And when they saw that it was a 100-mile round trip through the countryside, they decided that was not a good idea.
Yeah, that ain't no good idea.
The French couldn't even keep a fucking naked lady out of the motorcade. You think they're going to keep people with guns out of the motorcade?
Absolutely not. Too far of an area to... It's too big of a risk for it to take, especially for a leader of the free world, you know?
Speaking of France... You guys see what happened this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
I think it might still be going on. I think we might go into the next week with some yellow jacket protests. Have you guys heard about that? The yellow jacket, yellow vest protests? I know I had Boss collecting a few clips for me. Did you hear about that, Political?
No.
Well, looks like I'm not the one who's
No, you ain't.
Wait, are you talking about the naked women freaking out?
No. There was a massive protest over the weekend in France, Saturday and Sunday. People basically parked their cars in the street, got out of their cars, and they've got in France, you're required to have a reflective vest in your car. So everyone grabbed the reflective vests out of their cars and just started protesting. It was 250,000 protesters, 200 wounded, and one protester got killed by a motorist. Basically, the entire country ground to a halt, and we had police that were, abandoning their posts across the country. Aside from the 200 wounded by motorists and such, not too many people got out of hand. I mean, 200 people out of 250,000, that's nothing. That's nothing.
Pretty good numbers, I'd say. Good numbers, man.
I think so.
Damn, fool.
So the way I did this was we got three different news outlets from 3 different countries, and they show 3 different angles of the story. So the first one is going to be our Al Jazeera, and they do a pretty good job of showing the crowds. Your Guardian News is going to be pretty good at showing the crowds as well and give us the American viewpoint on this whole thing, what they're trying to spin in our media. And then once we're all done with that, we're going to go check out France 24 and see how much they downplay this shit.
Oh, you chose the France 24 one. Perfect. All right, let's jump right in.
They are the sights and sounds of protest in the heart of the French capital. There have been many demonstrations during President Macron's leadership as he tries to introduce a raft of economic reforms. But this new round of protests is different. Around 250,000 demonstrators took to the streets in more than 2,000 protests nationwide. This was Bordeaux's main square.
Yeah.
Man, look at that.
So when they went, that's basically the French White House. And when they went there, the police abandoned their posts.
On petrol and diesel. The movement's now gathering momentum. In northern France, near Calais, they block roads as well as access to fuel depots, paralysing transport routes. At a blockade in southeast France, a driver accidentally hit and killed a woman demonstrator.
I'm wearing this yellow vest for a simple reason. There are too many taxes, and this fuel tax we simply cannot tolerate. We just keep getting taxed by Macron, and we're getting nothing back.
Here in central Paris, there have been several pockets of protest emerging in different parts of the city simultaneously, such as here at the Arc de Triomphe. There have also been several somewhat valiant attempts to blockade the roads, although here what people are doing is stopping cars to see exactly whether or not people support what they're trying to do here. It's a difficult challenge for President Emmanuel Macron.
Get out, protest.
On the one hand, he has to show that he's allowing people the democratic right to hold demonstrations like this, while at the same time standing firm on his policies.
I mean, honestly, how hard would it be to just call your employer and be like, I can't get to work because of
and of
protests?
course, we must
Sorry.
continue to answer the expectations of the French, including those about their purchasing
power.
One thing is certain, the Interior
you.
Ministry is very concerned and will always be very concerned for the safety and well-being of the people.
Earlier in the week, Macron said he wanted to reconcile the French people with its leaders. The government insists the price hikes are necessary to help reduce carbon emissions. It's offered some financial incentives to encourage people to buy electric cars. But demonstrators say taxes should be imposed on big polluters like heavy industries, not
boss,
ordinary
are you
drivers.
set up to, share
Macron's
images to the
popularity
screen?
has been falling in recent
I
months.
can.
He can't afford to see it slide any further.
They do.
Neve Barker, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Just, I have an image here that'll give our viewers a sense of the scale of this protest.
All right. Ooh, baby.
Every single one of those yellow dots is a protest that's taking place for this protest. So each one of those is a group of protesters that stop traffic wherever that mark is on the map. And as you can see, France is pretty yellow.
Yeah, that's pretty yellow. Those are pretty grainy.
It is. It is a little grainy. Sorry, it's a low resolution pic. It was getting passed around a lot yesterday, but yeah, pretty crazy. You ready to see what the Guardian has to say?
Oh yeah. Let's see.
Let's do it. Demonstrators.
Day-to-day action of marching and blocking traffic. Nice.
And that's Paris. Okay. Yeah, dude, all over the country, all over. Calais.
Je comprends.
Dude, Calais has
Après
been
bloquer les
a
utilisateurs,
big
enfin
hotspot.
les conducteurs, je trouve que c'est un petit peu abusé. Je pense qu'il y a peut-être d'autres solutions pour protester. C'est Macron, hein, c'est pas nous. Donc,
people don't understand that, like,
what's his
they voted Macron in, so they need to fucking take responsibility for him being a dipshit.
Je suis salariée, mon mari de même, nous ne sommes pas imposables, nous n'arrivons plus à nourrir 2 enfants, tout jeunes adultes, et donc les taxes en France, il y en a beaucoup trop.
En fait, Emmanuel Macron applique une politique de banquier pour les riches. Il veut s'enrichir. Il veut enrichir les gens de son gouvernement.
He's putting into practice the policies of banks, that man said.
Oh boy. So then, what does that tell us?
That tells us that people are pissed off enough that they're willing to stand in front of a giant hunk of metal speeding down the freeway.
Good point. Very, very good point.
So, you ready to see how France 24 tries to downplay this shit?
Yep. Let's see.
Let's do it.
Well, I'm standing at the bottom now of the Champs-Elysees. The protesters managed to push their way all the way down the avenue. You can see some of them are crowded behind me, and a group actually just broke off. They decided to head to the Assemblée Nationale. You can probably see, some of the motorbikes leaving me now. They are gilets jaunes, yellow vest wearing motorbikes. They're protesters as well. And they're on their way to the Assemblée Nationale, which is France's lower house of parliament. Now, the original plan was actually to head to the Élysée Palace, the presidential palace, but the police are not going to let protesters anywhere near that place. So now many of them are heading about a kilometre towards the River Seine, towards the Assemblée Nationale, France's lower house of parliament.
And Claire, as we heard in that
Wait until they
report,
show you
these
the
protests
French riot,
aren't
please,
just
and you'll
about
fucking
fuel,
laugh.
are they? What are the other grievances?
Well, certainly a word I've been hearing a lot today from speaking to protesters is ras-le-bol, which in English basically means fed up. The protesters say they're fed up with a whole raft of different reforms that have come through from Emmanuel Macron and his government, and that's something that they really are frustrated with. What we keep hearing is that people seem to feel that Emmanuel Macron's government favours French people who are better off and is squeezing out French people who are less well off. Now that, of course, refers a lot to Emmanuel Macron's tax breaks that he's given to businesses. Emmanuel Macron, of course, defends the tax breaks that he's given to businesses because he says for the economy to get going, for jobs to be created, for people to get working and earning money again, he's got to help out businesses. Of course, for the people here today, the trigger was those high prices of fuel, people who need to drive their cars, frustrated with the high prices of fuel. But really, there's a raft of other reasons. Ras-le-bol, as I said, fed up. French people here today are fed up. And as we heard in that report as well, they do enjoy quite a lot of support from the French public. That said, here in Paris, the numbers of the protests that we've seen have been relatively small. I did speak to a group of Parisian ladies a little earlier, and they said to me that they were a bit disappointed. And they said that the thing is, Parisians don't necessarily feel the effects of high fuel prices because many Parisians simply don't own cars or don't drive very much. They take the metro. And so that's why here in Paris, we're not seeing huge crowds like we are seeing in other parts of the country.
Yeah, except for the fact that we just saw huge crowds in Paris from 2 different news sources just now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so France 24, fake news. Welcome to fake news, my friends. Oh, all right. Let me check my show notes and see where we're at. Okay. So, we have one thing we wanted to talk. You got that other video ready? The one that's not in the playlist?
Yes, I do.
Okay, hold that for a second, but get ready to play that.
All right.
There has been a lot of media blackout on what is going on in Haiti right now. We have had mixed reports that are unconfirmed about military force, like U.S. military, taking control of different infrastructure down there. We've had unconfirmed reports of riots, gang wars, huge protests. We've got live videos that we've seen of people marching in the streets demanding that their president resign. Kind of a similar scene to France, but it's much more gruesome. A lot of the videos that are floating around right now on the internet, we're not going to show on this channel. It's just too graphic.
Too much.
But I will tell you right now, I watched a video last night from Haiti, fresh from Haiti. There's so much death going on there right now that the streets are literally littered with corpses, and they have packs of pigs running in the street eating human corpses. It's pretty gruesome, my dude.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty gruesome. I mean, you saw the live stream that I linked you to earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Couldn't understand any of it. But
I couldn't understand it either. They speak a really strange version of French. It's like a Creole French or something like that, like some Cajun shit. But that was rough. There was one part of that live stream where that guy's walking through the city and he just like picks up a skull off the ground.
Oof.
And it's got gore on it and everything because it was, recently cleaned by a pig.
Oh, well, let's hope we don't start dropping frames or anything while we're showing this clip here then.
Right. So this clip that we're about to show is about the only MSM clip that I could find that was even relating to the incident. We couldn't find a post date for it on the actual website that it was posted on, CTV, which is a Canadian news agency. But Google says it was posted 5 days ago. So we're going to play it. I think it's current. I don't know if we have to issue a retraction or a correction, we will, because, ethics and all that bullshit. But let's play the clip and let people know why Canadians are worried about going to Haiti.
The federal government warned Canadians today to avoid all non-essential travel to Haiti, a country consumed by political chaos. Deadly protests broke out after the government raised the price of a basic necessity in a nation where millions of people are already struggling to survive. The crisis has left aid workers stranded and Haitian Canadians feeling helpless. CTV's Kelly Gregg reports.
Chaotic protests leading to looting on the streets of Port-au-Prince. A plea for calm from Haitian leaders ignored. A dramatic hike in fuel prices has ignited unrest. The International Monetary Fund cut its subsidies, forcing the country to put in austerity measures. For now, the government has had to temporarily suspend the increase, but not before 3 people were killed. Now, many trying to flee are trapped.
They just kept getting stopped by roadblocks and people asking for money. And that's when they decided that at that point it was just, it wasn't worth it to try to make it to the airport.
Montreal is home to 132,000 Haitians. 81% of immigrants from the island who come to Canada choose to settle in this city. And many are watching the situation unfold with little they can do to help. Now just watching and waiting for news of loved ones.
Is my family safe? Could they reach their home? Because there's a lot of people, as the street was closed, they couldn't reach their house.
Ça va changer en Haïti.
At Montreal's Haitian radio station, the manager says it's a 51% jump in the price of kerosene that is sparking the most anger.
A touché les gens les plus vulnérables de la...
It hurts those who are the most vulnerable, he says. Kerosene is used by people who don't have electricity, so it's a big part of the population. There are worries failed refugee claimants are being sent back to a dangerous climate. Last year, of the 7,300 Haitians seeking asylum in Canada, most were refused and ordered to return to the Western Hemisphere's poorest country.
We cannot afford not having hope. While the migrants are being allowed in.
Hope that Haiti's latest turmoil will be resolved without more deaths is all she has. Kelly Gregg,
pretty crazy
CTV
video,
News, Montreal.
I mean, that looks like the footage that we showed in Yemen, and that's a fucking war zone. Oh, also, Haiti had another earthquake in October, so that's one of the reasons why everything looks so run down and dilapidated. Oh, man.
Man, what the hell is going down in Haiti? Seriously. Too much.
It's. You want my opinion?
I'm
The
not gonna
Clinton
say
Foundation
it,
ruined
but
it.
it might be a shithole.
It might be a shithole, but it wasn't a Let's be real. It was not a shithole before the Clinton Foundation got to it after the big earthquake.
I hear you on that.
Correct. Absolutely. And if you look into like the gold mining rights that were given to Clinton's brother that weren't given to anybody else for like, I don't know, 60, 70 years before that.
That's why a lot of the Haitians really hate the Clintons. Okay, so we've been looking at a lot of depressing ass shit. I'm tired of looking at depressing ass shit. Let's watch something funny.
Same.
BBC actually did a kind of hilarious recap of election night. So let's watch this and just kind of take it in because it's fun. Let's just have some fun for a minute.
Let's see what the BBC has to say.
Election.
Thank you.
This is such a good video already. Eastern Standard Time.
We have a president of the United States who is a pathological liar.
I love this. Standard.
And at the end of the day, the president's going to work with whoever comes into office.
Versus Sanders. Who has the better chicken?
I see so many of you out there. I see Terry, the other Terry, lots of Terrys.
Terry, the other Terry.
Lots of Terrys.
Republicans have held the Senate. It's now projected
All
that the
them Terrys,
Democrats
you know, they all
take
look
control
alike.
of the House of Representatives.
Is this real?
This is real.
I want to encourage you not to give up. Stick to the fight.
Don't give up.
Tonight is a victory for the people of Texas.
Zodiac Killer wins.
It's about restoring
Guild
the
speaker?
Constitution's checks and balances to the Trump administration. Tomorrow will be a new day in America.
It's Wednesday, my dudes.
And tonight's loss does nothing to diminish the way that I feel about Texas or this country.
I know what you sacrificed to make your way to the polls.
Didn't he say fuck like right after that?
I know that you put your faith in me, and you'll do it again.
And you'll do it again. You can
Man, they
right
really
there.
made that look like a freaking action movie, man.
Awesome.
I
thought I was watching a preview or something.
I'm so impressed by BBC. Like,
That was
what's the
good.
best thing they've come up with since BBC Pigeon? Which BBC Pigeon, let me tell you guys, if you haven't read BBC Pigeon, you are missing out on one of the best fucking things on the internet because it's real. It's not fake. It's not a joke. It's not like tongue in cheek. It ain't like, it's real. It's not sarcastic. BBC Pigeon, PIDGIN.
Oh man. However you spell pigeon.
No,
it's a fucking, it's like a dialect of English from Africa. Okay, so now we're kind of getting into election talk, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Election kind of happened last week. We picked up two houses in the Senate. Lost the House, but we actually picked up a few seats in the House over what we thought we would have. People are saying historic losses in the House, but everyone's kind of ignoring the Senate entirely. The other main story that's going around and has been going around all week is people throwing around claims of election fraud. We have major fraud concerns in Florida. The woman that's running that place, what's her name? Brenda Snipes. She's been actually found to be committing election fraud before. So since she's been so dodgy about how she's reporting her stuff, there's a legitimate concerns. That and in Arizona, from what I understand. We're not going to watch this whole clip because it's 10 minutes, but the beginning part of this clip should tell you how CNN decides to handle this situation.
We began the broadcast with the White House firing and with new reporting on what is said to be the president's foul mood over a number of things, including the midterms. Here's perhaps another sign of it. He is once again leveling a favorite, unsubstantiated allegation about the election. Speaking to the Daily Caller, he said, quote, "The Republicans don't win, and that's because of potentially illegal votes. When people get in line that have absolutely no right to vote, and they go around in circles. Sometimes they go to their car, put on a different hat, put on a different shirt, come in and vote again." He went on to say, if you buy a box of cereal, you have a voter ID. Now, the last part is easy because I'm not a big foodie, but there is one food item I do shop for a lot, and it's cereal. I basically live on cereal. That's why I look so healthy. I can assure you, except for Frosted Lucky Charms, cereal, which, as you all know, are magically delicious, no ID is necessary to purchase any cereal.
He can't even say Lucky
or any other
Charms
breakfast
properly.
food.
He says Frosted.
As for the fraud allegation, the
He's
cars
like,
and disguises and so
"Hello,
on,
fellow
I
children."
am told that we may have some video of that. Let's take a look.
This was on CNN.
Seriously? Clowns.
Yes. Yes.
All right, obviously that is from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. Maybe that is where Mr. Trump got the idea of people going into their cars and changing disguises, because the president offered actually no evidence to back up his claim. And keeping him honest, that's probably because there isn't any that we know about. Don't take our word for it. Listen to the authorities who are actually in Florida who say there's no evidence of voter fraud. Ballot disputes, yes. Signature issues, yes. Outdated voting machines, yes. But
so the problem is that the officials in Florida, half of them are from the incumbent, like the old administration, and half of them, well, let's just face it, like they're all from the old administration. So they're all holding over. Exactly. They're all people that are already in place. I mean, a lot of these people were elected officials. So for him to sit there and go, these politically motivated people are my experts, kind of asinine. Plus, let's be real. If you want to be taken seriously, don't fucking play clowns on the news.
Clowns in America.
Also, I was actually about to make that point. Don't you think it's funny that Anderson Cooper literally used to work for the CIA and he's calling someone else a clown?
Oh, the biggest. Just the biggest. That's exactly. I just laughed out loud. It was just so good.
All right, so let's contrast this. Marco Rubio thinks that he has some interesting thoughts on the election fraud. He thinks the Democrats are trying to win by changing the elections after they happen. This whole situation, just so you know, to give you a little bit of perspective, this was about 3, 4, 5 days ago that this all went down. So if some of you are scratching your heads and you're like, why the fuck are we reporting this? It already changed and everything's figured out. Well, everything's not figured out yet, but this was old news. So just bear with us as we present it.
Now on to hearing the words of what Sweaty Man has
Marco
to say.
Rubio!
It's Tucker.
Are over.
Oh, but
or
it's not
are
Tucker.
they over? In the last 2 Senate races, we thought were going to the GOP. They seem to win on election night. I'm talking about Florida. I'm talking about Arizona. Thousands of uncounted ballots keep popping up, though, mostly in the Democratic-leaning areas. What is going on here, and why are these elections still up in the air? Senator Marco Rubio's had it. He's tweeted about it, saying this: Democrat lawyers are descending on Florida. They've been very clear they aren't there to make sure that every vote is counted. They are here to change the results of the election, and Broward County is where they plan to do it. Senator Marco Rubio joins us right now. Senator, what makes you think that?
Their words. They held a press conference and said that we're not here to just have a recount. We're here to win. And look, we have procedures in the law for close elections and recounts. I have no problem with any of that. I have no problem with anyone availing themselves of what the law allows them to do. Here's my problem. My problem is this is focused on 2 counties and in particular 1 county. So let me use an example. Bay County, Florida, where Panama City is, was hit by a Category 4 hurricane about 4 weeks to the day of this election. They were without power. You guys covered all this. They did all their ballots at a 52% return rate, 52% turnout despite the hurricane. They did all their ballots, submitted them on time. They were done basically on election night early the following morning, very early. Broward County, 48 hours later, is still counting.
Oh!
And they didn't have a Category 4 hurricane, and it's not the first time that they do this. Problem number one. Problem number two
Pause
is...
this for a second. For our audience that may not understand this, Broward County is where the Parkland shooting happened, too.
And isn't it where they found the guy in the van?
Yep. Broward County is the center of all of our fucking conspiracies. It is just a nexus of deep state fuckery.
Heck, I don't even have my tinfoil anymore. God damn.
No, you don't need it now. You've now acclimated. You've got full cancer in your brain. You can't help it.
Oh, damn it. I knew that would happen. Anyway, back to this clip. Or wait, what?
Yep. No, you good.
Okay.
We don't know how many votes they have, and neither do they. Either they don't know or they won't tell anybody how many ballots are left to count. And so forth. And so it's concerning when you go to sleep at 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning after the election, and, for example, Rick Scott is up by 60,000 votes, 54,000 votes, whatever it was. Today is at 17,000. And the only counties that are still reporting are Palm Beach and Broward,
right?
Who have a history, by the way, on these things. You know, Broward County lost a lawsuit to the Republican Party a while back because they were opening up absentee ballots and beginning to count them before they were supposed to. Okay, Broward County in August of this year in Broward County, mysteriously, or I should just say, let me not use that term, 5,000 mail ballots appeared all of a sudden at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night of the election. Then it actually grew to 9,000. When they were done counting those, a school board race that involved Ryan Petty, one of the Parkland fathers that was challenging a school board member, suddenly the incumbent was able to barely, but she did, avoid a runoff. A judge race flipped at a 400-vote margin after these 9,000 votes appeared. So this is a pattern of, at a minimum, incompetence, and it's embarrassing to the state. Voters deserve better. This is not even a partisan thing. This is a county that apparently cannot count votes as well as a county that just got wiped out by a hurricane.
No matter what happens, you have a sitting governor up for this election, and Marco Rubio, you've been there. You should straighten this out. Brenda Snipes illegally destroyed ballots in 2016. She's still in charge. Now they can't count the ballots. They're supposed to have it up 30 minutes after elections closes. It's still not done. So I just talked to Governor Scott's office. He has a presser tonight. And he says they understand there's got to be a recount, an automatic recount, first by machine. If it's still close, then by hand. Now we understand that Andrew Gillum says it looks like he is going to retract his concession, and he's going to look for a recount there as the vote's beginning to close as well.
Yeah, look, the recount is fine. The law provides for that. In the case of the governor's race and Gillum and DeSantis, they're going to take the ballots and feed them back in the machine and make sure the machine is accurately reflecting them. In the case of the Senate campaign, they're going to manually recount these ballots. And what that means is they're only going to manually recount undervotes and overvotes, meaning ballots that voted for more than one candidate or ballots that did not vote for any candidate. And they're going to look at it and see, was there a marking that showed a voter's intent? Now, it has to be consistent throughout the ballot. So if you put an X in the circle, you got to put an X in all the circles. You can't just do it for one race. But that's where the lawyers get involved. That's where the fights begin to happen. And that's where we have seen races in the past suddenly turn. My problem is, if this was something we were seeing in multiple counties, it's in one county, and it happens to be a very Democratic county. Look, people have a right to be concerned about it.
Senator, real quick, Mark Elias is coming in. He's a Clinton attorney. And guess what? Works for Perkins Coie. And guess what? They hired Fusion GPS, who hired Christopher Steele. We're back in the dossier conversation. Mark Elias is back in our lives as a country. The Clinton lawyers are here, and they're going to start putting a lawsuit together that the Senate vote, the punch for the Senate, was way on the bottom of the ballot, separate, making it hard for people to vote. So they're going to challenge this legally, along with the recounts, along with the ballots. We might have another mess in Florida, but you're at least standing up ahead of time instead of talking about it in the aftermath. Crazy. Senator Marco Rubio, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Pretty decent interview from Rubio, I think. He's been shaping up a lot lately. He's definitely not president material, though. I'm not giving him that.
Oh, yeah. Not president material at all.
So we've got one more clip from CNN about the voter fraud claims. We may or may not want... And you know what? Let's skip it. Fuck it. Let's skip that one. We don't need to watch that. We already got some shit from CNN. Okay, so we're done with the voter fraud bullshit.
Fucking it.
Fuck that clip. Fuck that clip. We're moving on to the next.
Clip has been fucked.
All right, so aside from the voter fraud stuff, there was one really big shakeup in the last 2 weeks, and I really wanted to do a report on it. We're only going to go a little bit with this one because there's not much news other than it happened. But I don't know about you guys, but I didn't expect Jeff Sessions to resign.
Well, I mean, they had been talking about it for a while.
Well, yeah, but like optics, like I didn't think he was actually going to do it. It took me by surprise. I think it took the Dems by surprise because they're freaking out right now. They the replacement Matt Whitaker, they're really upset that he's not recusing himself. So our clip isn't necessarily about that part of the politics. Those things are still unfolding, and I think we'll have more to report on that next week. As far as like how the Dems are taking it and what's, maybe coming down the pipe for the Mueller investigation, because you never know, he may make a decision on that. But regardless, let's go ahead and watch this clip. Trey Gowdy tells us what he thinks of the Jeff Sessions resignation.
Jumping in.
Doesn't sound like he's too surprised.
Let's talk more about the Sessions retirement, really firing, with South Carolina Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy, who sits on the Judiciary and Intelligence Committees and chairs the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Firing.
Yes, sir.
Your thoughts of this news?
It was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen after the election. I did not think it would happen before all the votes had been counted. But he's been a proverbial dead man walking for several months now, Brett.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer had a real problem with the acting Attorney General. Take a listen.
Our paramount view is that any attorney general, whether this one or another,
oh man, look at Schumer with his
should not
top
be
button
able to
unbuttoned.
interfere with the Mueller investigation in any
so
way.
relaxed.
They should not be able to end it. They should not be able to limit it. They should not be able to interfere with Mueller going forward and doing what he thinks is the right thing. And that will help guide us as we go through this process.
So their concern is that Matt Whitaker is going to do that. Is that your concern?
No, Brett. Every prosecutor has jurisdictional boundaries. I don't know a single prosecutor that does not. And Mueller's jurisdictional boundaries were set by Rod Rosenstein in the memo that you have seen, and they were altered, amended in the memo that we have not seen. But there's never been a prosecutor that just had unfettered power to go investigate whatever the heck he or she wanted to do. If you're a state prosecutor, you can't investigate federal crimes. If you're in New York, you can't investigate things in Idaho. So the notion that we're going to create a special counsel that has no boss, no jurisdictional strictures at all, is just typical Chuck Schumer, and I think it's why so few people take him seriously.
Well, what about the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and his role here? One would have assumed that the deputy, that's why he's a deputy, if the Attorney General is not there, would step in as acting.
You would. These are interesting times that we're in. Rod Rosenstein, I was ready to question him. I had 37 pages worth of questions for him, Brett, a couple of weeks ago. Of course, he is alleged to have wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment and question the president's fitness for office. So I'm not sure that would have been the right pick, but he is overseeing the Mueller probe right now. I don't think anything's going to happen to Rod until after Mueller finishes his investigation, and then what happens after that will be between the president and Rod.
Rosenstein had a meeting today at the White House, scheduled to be there tomorrow. Do you have any sense when Mueller moves forward with anything? Do you have any timeline?
I don't, and I'd be really disappointed if anyone did. I mean, Mueller, for whatever other shortcomings people perceive that he has, I think he's tried to do a pretty good job of keeping his business private. I have not seen a single piece of evidence that suggests collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. I know Schiff has. I know some journalists claim they have. But I've seen nothing, and no one's interviewed more witnesses than I have. So I think Mueller is going to issue an exhaustive report on what Russia did, which should unify America. And then he's going to disappoint CNN and all my Democrat friends by saying there's no evidence of collusion. That's what I think he's going to do, and I think it'll happen before the end of the year, but I don't know that.
Mr. Chairman, do you think that acting Attorney General Whitaker could expand the investigation the other way into looking at the FBI, the early parts of the investigation from inside the administration?
Well, he could. You know, Chairman Goodlatte and I wrote a long time ago, we wrote to Attorney General Sessions and said, we think, reluctantly, but we think there ought to be a second special counsel. And I say that as somebody who used to work for the Department of Justice and wants to see that institution restored to its greatness. But I think there ought to be a second special counsel to look at the origins of the Russia probe and the way the FBI conducted itself. I mean, Chairman Goodlatte and I have been investigating to the extent we can without a grand jury and without compulsory process. We've been looking at what we can, and I am deeply troubled by what the department and the Bureau did. And I think another special counsel is warranted, and I thought that months ago.
Is it more likely that that happens with the acting Attorney General Whitaker than not?
Well, my chances were 0 with Sessions because he said no. So not to quote the movie Dumb and Dumber, but I guess it's 1 in a million. I guess it's better than it was with Sessions.
So you're saying you got a chance. All right, I've got
You're saying there's
15
a chance.
seconds here. Your reaction to losing the House?
Not surprised. Historical headwinds, retirements. It's really tough to win in off years. Picked up seats in the Senate. I'm sorry for some of my friends that aren't coming back. Mia Love and Stevie Russell and others. But it's an unusual line of work that we have chosen, and the jury has spoken, and the jury is always right.
And what about the president saying, you know, if you didn't stand with me, too bad, today at the news conference?
Well, we lost a seat in South Carolina. Katie Arrington stood with the president, much more so than Mark Sanford, and regrettably, she did not win. So I think he had tremendous success in the Senate seats that he involved himself with. The House is just a different entity, and it's tough to win in off years. The historical headwinds, the money that poured in, the retirements. I think Kevin and Paul knew that we were in trouble, even though they fought like the Dickens to prevent it. I think it was inevitable.
We had a lot of retirements.
I didn't see us picking up seats in the Senate, so that was a plus.
Mr. Chairman, we appreciate your time, as always.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. So, Trey Gowdy for Attorney General.
Dope. I'm down.
I want that to happen so bad. That's like my old like political fantasy team was Trey Gowdy and Jason Chaffetz running for office as president and vice president. I wanted that so bad. Nah, Jason Chaffetz is out of the fucking politics game. I think he's done for good. All right, so we're switching gears. If you'll notice, we haven't had any Tucker coverage tonight.
What do you mean? We just had Tucker coverage just a short while ago, though it wasn't actually Tucker.
We haven't had Tucker talking. And the reason we haven't had Tucker talking is because we actually have a Tucker Carlson segment tonight.
Ooh.
Tucker Carlson, if some of you are unaware, has been the recipient of an Antifa hate mob on his front lawn. They broke his door. They harassed his family. Police aren't arresting them. And they pretty much told him, you better watch out because we know where you sleep at night, multiple times.
Antifa, figuring out where you live and knowing where you sleep.
So this is the first video that we're going to watch is the actual video. And then we're going to see Dan Bongino and Seb Gorka talking about these types of left-wing mobs, because this is becoming a clear pattern of political violence.
Pattern me up for this.
We know where you sleep at night.
Mailbox.
We know where you sleep at night.
We know where you sleep at night.
So to restate, the caravan is in fact heavily
They can't even
manned
say
and
their
highly
own,
dangerous. According to Border Control, at least one member of the caravan has already admitted to being a member of MS-13. All of this should worry us.
Everyone needs a metronome.
I mean, literally, they're attacking a journalist for being a journalist.
We believe survivors. We believe survivors. We believe survivers. We believe survivors. Beto is way hotter than you do. We believe survivors.
Beto is way hotter than you, dude. The fudge?
Right. Tucker Carlson did talk about it at Politicon, but the clip is kind of long, so I didn't think it was really worth listening to. What I thought was a little bit more worth listening to was this next clip, the Dan Bongino Sub Gorka. So go ahead and cue that up so we can fucking riff on that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting as fuck to actually see what Bongino looks like when he's talking. I've never seen him before, so thank you for introducing me to that. Let's see.
Oh, you bet.
I'm looking at this. They were quiet about all of this when Sarah Sanders, Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen, 2 Republicans punched, one a woman in Minnesota, rocks thrown through the door of Kevin McCarthy's office, Ted Cruz's wife. You see these tactics, Dan. Somebody's going to get hurt. They even screamed mail bomb. We know where you sleep.
Oh, come on. What about the Republican
Shouldn't that
softball
be? Isn't
game?
that against the law?
No, absolutely. I mean, they vandalized his house, Sean. I mean, this was gross. This was disgusting.
Exactly what I expected.
This was filthy. But Sean, you know, I have personal experience with this. I've been in your studio in New York, and I've been in Tucker's in D.C. many times. I've been on your set with liberals. There have been some spicy debates on your set. You know what happens in the green room? Everybody shakes hands, says, I'll see you the next time. There's got to be a red line here. You know, I appreciate some of the talking heads on the Democrat side who spoke out against this, but this has to be universal, Sean. I mean, when this pipe bomb guy recently was engaged in this stuff,
that one because they thought they could blame that on Trump, like the synagogue shooting.
Right.
They could blame on Trump.
Of course,
the synagogue shooter was anti-Trump because he's pro-Israel.
Yes, and the condemnation was universal on our side. People have to speak out and draw a red line against this. What happened at Tucker's house last night was an abomination. It was disgusting.
You know, and let me say, there was a report on Mediaite tonight, Dr. Gorka, that a CNN anchor apparently is receiving threats. No conservative. We don't want you. You're not a conservative if you're sending threats to people, period. Yeah. No, we have no room for it. No. Now, we have over at Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow is now encouraging people to go out and protest today, part of a MoveOn.org effort. That's, you know, General Betray Us, the same people that, you know, featured elderly women vowing to, you know, private part punch Mitt Romney and burn this mother effer down, and ads comparing Bush to Hitler. So this is the network Tom Brokaw's proud of? This is this person, Maddow, claiming she's a news person? Really?
Well, she's not a news person. Sean, there is a direct line between Jim Acosta's behavior at that press conference and what happened at our friend Tucker's house. These people are repeatedly crossing the line of what is acceptable. Whether you're a reporter in the White House or whether you're a demonstrator in D.C., they're undermining or they're broadening what is called the Overton window, meaning the list of things that are deemed acceptable. This behavior, Jim Acosta's behavior, or the behavior at Tucker's house, would have been deemed absolutely unacceptable just 2 years ago.
Well,
but when you get Maxine Waters...
Listen, they're throwing up that's doxing. They're putting up the addresses of people like me, Tucker, and Coulter. I understand. The word I will say another thing.
You hear that?
You know, when people
John Hannity
will say, "Well,
coming from a guy with a CIA lapel pin."
They are. They're not news. Their opinion.
Well, Larry King said it. Larry King said it.
When crowds chant they suck, that's not violent. Or the president says fake news is the enemy of the people. I take that to mean you're performing a disservice by lying to people. That's all that is. They're not, and those are words. This is a call to action, like Maxine Waters.
Yes, this is the direct result. The vandalism, the intimidation of a woman by herself at home is the direct result of Maxine Waters' incitement to do this, to harass people who are conservatives, and also Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the Obama administration.
Yeah. I'll give you the last word, Dan. I have a word for conservatives. Don't kick them. Don't get in their faces. If you see people you disagree with, don't create crowds. Don't follow people into stores. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Leave every liberal alone. Leave every reporter alone. Leave every elected official alone.
It didn't work out that well for Republicans in the election and the midterms. Where were the Republicans breaking store windows in the Starbucks and attacking people? The answer? They were at work, going to work and taking care of their families. Take a little lesson from that in the far left. It's how politics should work.
They were dead silent. Pam Bondi, Sarah Sanders, Secretary Nielsen, Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz's wife. They were silent. Now they're actually organizing it on MSNBC and partnering with MoveOn.org. Bush is Hitler. It's pretty disgusting.
Journalism.
How about that, my dude?
How about it? Oh, man.
So I pulled a video from Judicial Watch today. Something that might make you a little happy. Judicial Watch reposted a One American News Network video where Tom Fitton did an interview. I think the clip speaks for itself. Honestly, I don't want to take away the sheer joy that this clip will bring to our audience. Do you?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Are you being for real right now?
Play it.
You better not be fucking with me right now, man. Or if you're fucking with me. Okay.
More than 2 years after Hillary Clinton refused to answer some of Judicial Watch's questions about her email server, a judge is stepping in to make her comply. One America's Karen McKinney has the latest on the lawsuit.
A federal court was in favor of forcing Hillary Clinton to testify about her email scandal. Judge Emmett Sullivan made the decision Wednesday in response to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit brought by Judicial Watch. The conservative watchdog group wants to make Clinton answer important questions about the creation and use of her private server. The last time Clinton testified about the issue under oath, she skipped 20 out of the 25 questions presented by Judicial Watch.
We also went back to the court and asked Judge Sullivan, Judge Emmett Sullivan here in the District of Columbia. We asked him to require Hillary Clinton to answer questions she refused to answer, specifically, if I recall correctly, that she did not want to answer questions about why she continued to use and conducted used personal devices and her email system despite warnings from security officials. She didn't want to answer that question.
That was back in October of 2016, just weeks before she lost the presidential election. Other questions include Clinton being asked if she was ever warned about her private email account violating federal record-keeping laws, or if she was ever told about possible hacking attempts on the unsecure server. It's also interesting to note the former Secretary of State refused to say if she ordered the destruction of thousands of emails which had been subpoenaed by Congress. This has led many to believe there was a cover-up.
So her lawyers will be in court arguing over this issue of whether she'd have to answer the questions we had put to her that she's objecting to. But isn't it remarkable that it's Judicial Watch, the one that is doing this? The Justice Department isn't? The State Department isn't? Congress isn't?
Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton explains his legal team is busy drafting up a new set of questions, which Clinton will have 30 days to provide written answers to under oath. Karen McKinney, One American News.
And no John McCain to worry about. She's fucked.
Oh my god. Oh. That was so good.
Prepare to see Hillary Clinton back in the Senate hearing. Just in case you guys were worried that would never fucking come to pass.
Oh, that just made my day, man. You just made my day.
I almost thought about making that the highlight, but honestly, the highlight for me is going to be shitting on all these laser fags.
Finally, are we actually doing that?
We're doing that today. So we got a lot of fires going on in California.
Yes, we do.
The president came out and he says, "Hey, California Forestry Department sucks. Get on it." So the internet, as one great big voice said, "No, it's fucking space lasers. That's space lasers caused it. It did it."
All the space lasers.
I love when the actual answer is incompetence, but people cannot fathom that someone can be so incompetent, so they have to come up with convoluted methods for something to have been accomplished. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time destroying the space laser directed energy weapon narrative beyond if it's a laser, you have to beat fucking inverse square inverse law for refraction, so you have to have a very powerful laser. Second off, you wouldn't be able to see the beam. Literally every single picture that has ever been showed to me that is like, oh, proof of a laser beam is either photoshopped or it's the reflection off of like a lens. It's really bad. People are trying to say that there are these energy beams, but
Stuff that
there's
J.J.
no
Abrams
such,
would know about.
such thing. Well, that, and
Lens
then
flare
how
and
the hell are
energy
you going to
beams.
cool? Like, even if you, okay. So, like, the only way I thought about this was, like, you could maybe put a particle accelerator in space. But first off, you have to put a particle accelerator in space. Second off, you have to cool that bitch. That shit, let me tell you, particle accelerators, they have giant magnets in them that are super cooled so that they can fucking move these particles, you know, near the speed of light. And, like, while that would work, A, it would still not create a fucking beam. And B, that's stupid. That is stupid.
Boom.
So, I don't care if we piss some people off. Space lasers aren't a thing because the logistics required, the people that would have to be in the know, the people who would have to lie about it, like, it's just not a thing. Like, that is literally disinfo so that you guys don't buy into what's actually happening. Like, this is all a distraction from the fact that California, run by Democrats and a shitty fucking Republican governor over the last 30 years, have basically dipped into every fucking budget they possibly can to pay for their entitlement programs that they keep extending out further because they want to be the biggest sanctuary city in the country.
Whole state as a sanctuary.
Yeah, so basically, why a space laser when incompetence is far more likely and we can prove it? So that being said, I found a clip where, and this is kind of a melancholy clip. This is the local CBS affiliate, so of course they try to close it with the president's wrong. But basically, these officials, you'll hear them basically agree with the president's assessment that the forests are fucked, shit needs to be taken care of, and then they basically immediately are like, well, we're doing our job, and the president has no idea what he's talking about. But let's hear from the experts.
We mentioned earlier President Trump issuing a disaster declaration in the wake of California's wildfires.
His tweet this evening mentioned suffering and his support for the fire victims. But over the weekend, it was a different story. The president threatened to cut funding, claiming state leaders have grossly mismanaged our forests. The union that represents the majority of firefighters in California pushed back, labeling the comments insulting and reckless. Other critics of the president's comments pointed out that the federal government owns more than half of California's forest land.
KPIX5 political reporter Melissa Kane has that part of the story for us. Melissa?
Yeah, Liz, Alan, we see that the president is saying that California's fires are due to forest mismanagement. Now, leaving aside the timing of the messages, we wanted to know, has the state been managing the forests properly?
There's just too much vegetation.
Rich Gordon is the president of the California Forestry Association, and he says there's just too much flammable material in and near our California forests. In fact, looking at images of the campfire, we can see lots of dry underbrush that's burning.
We've had a kind of a Smokey the Bear problem. We have said we can't cut, we shouldn't thin. We need to protect trees.
He says in the 1800s, there were typically 40 trees to an acre in California. And today we have hundreds of trees to an acre. And while Gordon does represent timber companies, even the chief of CAL FIRE told us the forests are too thick.
Yes, it's true. Our forests, whether they're private or public, are what we call overstocked. They're thick, and it's from, we've been excluding fire for so many years because we're protecting public and infrastructure.
So there is a forest management problem. But as Governor Brown says, it's only one of many.
Forest management is one element. It's only one. And we have to take care of the whole range of threats and conditions. We have to all do more.
And the state is doing more, $1 billion more.
The legislature this year authorized $200 million a year for the next 5 years, $1 billion to be spent on forest management activities.
There's a long list of other reforms passed earlier this year, and that's one reason why Gordon does not agree with the president's messages.
I think we understand the extent of the problem, and California is going to be doing its part.
So the state is working out some issues, but the federal government may have some responsibility here too. So the feds control 57% of California's forests, including almost all of the area around the Poe Dam. And according to preliminary reports, that's where the campfire started. Melissa Kane, KPIX5.
There were multiple fires started at multiple locations.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So we're gonna keep an eye on this fire story because there's another part to it that's a little bit conspiracy tinfoil. Supposedly we might be clear, like they might have lit these fires to clear area for some rail project. Like there's some really big conspiracy bacon burning like about this shit right now. So I'll keep an eye on it and we might report about it next week. Might not. We'll see. We'll see what the news brings us. But that's a show, my dudes.
And what a good one it was. Holy crap.
Yeah, I think we went for, what was that, an hour and a half? That's
not
an
bad.
hour and a half, not bad. I thought
good.
we were going to go way longer. We did good job.
Yeah,
We're
we
getting
did.
good at this.
Getting our things under our belt and all that stuff and everything. Political, you there, man?
Dude, my shit fucking died. I thought it was charging, but the wall outlet wasn't working.
Oh, man, that's where you've been.
Fucking my bad, dude.
So I know we don't have a huge audience, but I wanted to let everybody know we're going to be opening up an account on a website called stream.me.
Stream
I've been watching. Yes, it's basically just Stream Me. I've been looking at alternative platforms to go to because, well, YouTube, let's face it, YouTube's cucked. Like, it's cucked. Like, you can't do anything on YouTube. And if you do stuff on YouTube and you even think about, like, monetizing it, like, as soon as you sneeze, your shit's demonetized. So a lot of people are getting kicked off of YouTube. So we're just building other platforms. We're just building a presence on all the platforms we can manage. So stream.me is one that I'm looking at. If you guys have any other suggestions of places that you'd like to see us on or watch us or your favorite place or something like that, send it in the comments. Or alternatively, just scream at me in the Discord server.
Oh yeah. And you can see our link right up there.
Said, we're gonna split our Discord server. Our Discord server is mostly focused on doing QAnon research. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna split the server and we're gonna advertise both. But we're gonna have one be our focused for our podcast and our followers on the podcast, and the other one is just gonna be the community QAnon shit posting amazing server with no fucking money bullshit.
Hell yes.
So, yeah. So that's how that's going to go. Also, if some of you are on the server and you're confused about the change, don't be. I'm just having fun.
We'll explain more as details become available. But for now, I say it's about time we say.
Don't be scared of the change.
Don't be afraid of change, guys. It's happening. It's happening like that. But okay.
Yo,
we had a wonderful show.
Change for?
Oh, you're not beating me there yet, everybody. You all know what you got to do. You got to go out and you got to buy water. That's so important.
Hey, God damn it! I seriously came back just for this. Are you
I beat all of you to it earlier today. Come on. All right. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us for this show tonight. We appreciate all of y'all joining us here. Hope you all have an awesome week ahead of you. Y'all else be safe and buy water.